It lasted just 47 minutes. And somehow, that single number exposed everything the palace never wanted said out loud. A long-anticipated reunion at Highgrove between Meghan Markle, Prince Harry, and King Charles III didn't quietly fade away. It detonated into questions, silences, and one unmistakable signal.
Meghan Markle felt humiliated on Prince Harry's most recent UK trip, and that the trip turned into a nightmare, forcing Markle and her children to return home to California earlier than they had hoped.
This was never going to be the fairy tale return, because when a meeting ends before it truly begins, you're not looking at reconciliation, you're looking at controlled damage. The entire setup already carried tension before a single word was spoken. For weeks, the narrative had been clear.
Nullifies her claims, Harry's claims that they can't possibly return to the United Kingdom without royal security because the press won't leave them alone.
Meghan Markle would not return to the United Kingdom without taxpayer-funded security. That refusal wasn't just logistical, it was symbolic, a line drawn between the Sussexes and the institution. And then suddenly, the story flipped. Reports emerged that Meghan had arrived anyway, children in tow, stepping back onto British soil, not cautiously, but decisively.
Yeah, this is the first time that the king has actually met his granddaughter and grandson from Prince Harry's side of the family since the late Queen's Platinum Jubilee all the way back in June 2022. And if you were to ask me on Monday afternoon whether I thought this meeting would take place, I would have told you absolutely no chance.
That shift wasn't random. It suggested urgency. It suggested a plan. And most importantly, it suggested that something behind the scenes had changed fast enough to override a previously immovable demand. This wasn't just another royal engagement, it was deeply personal. Years had passed without seeing Archie and Lilibet, grandchildren growing up thousands of miles away in Montecito, California, to many watching. This moment looked like an emotional turning point. A grandfather finally reconnecting. A father seeing his son again after distance, interviews, and accusations. It should have been warmth. It should have been healing. It should have been history. But when expectations rise that high, the fall becomes even sharper, because the moment they arrived at Highgrove, something immediately felt off. This wasn't a family home opening its doors. This was an institution activating protocol. Instead of being welcomed straight in, Harry and Meghan were reportedly asked to wait. Not briefly, not casually, but deliberately while final arrangements and royal procedures were completed. That delay wasn't about logistics. It was about control. It sent a message before the meeting even began. You are not walking into this on your terms. And in that moment, the power dynamic became crystal clear. The Sussexes may have initiated the visit, but they were not setting the stage. The palace was. Every second of waiting reinforced it. Every closed door before entry reminded them that whatever this meeting was, it would not be spontaneous, emotional, or unstructured. This would be managed. Calculated, contained, what followed inside only deepened that divide. Because instead of a warm reunion, the meeting reportedly unfolded like something else entirely, a formal discussion wrapped in family language. Conversations weren't about memories, laughter, or lost time. They were about boundaries. Expectations, conditions, the very things Meghan Markle reportedly did not come to hear. She walked in expecting open arms and walked out having been shown limits. Not subtle ones, clear ones. And that's where the emotional fracture became visible. Reports suggest Meghan's frustration wasn't just about security or accommodation at Buckingham Palace, it was about the tone of the meeting itself. Because tone reveals intent. And this tone wasn't welcoming, it was instructive. It told her exactly where she stood now within the royal structure. Not at the center. Not even close. But outside, negotiating entry under strict conditions. Then came the number that changed everything. 47 minutes. That was the total duration of a meeting that had been built up for years. 47 minutes to bridge a fractured family. 47 minutes to resolve global headlines. 47 minutes, and then it was over. Meghan was seen leaving Highgrove, her expression becoming the next piece of evidence analyzed by royal watchers. Not relief, not joy, but something closer to disappointment. Maybe even realization. Because nothing significant came out of that room. No joint statement. No extended stay. No visible reconciliation. Just polite greetings, formal courtesies, and a separation that looked almost identical to the one before the meeting happened. And perhaps most telling of all, not a single photograph. That absence wasn't accidental. In royal history, images are currency. A single photograph could have rewritten the narrative overnight, signaling unity, forgiveness, even a potential return. But there was nothing. No image of King Charles with Harry. No image with Meghan. No image with Archie and Lilibet. The silence of that missing photograph spoke louder than any statement ever could. And outside those walls, the consequences were already unfolding. Meghan and the children reportedly left shortly after, while Prince Harry remained in the United Kingdom for Invictus Games preparations. That separation raised another question: was this visit ever meant to be unified? Or was it always going to split into different paths? Because Meghan's absence from public appearances wasn't just noticeable, it was strategic. Reports suggested she avoided them entirely, fearing public backlash. At the same time, another layer of tension quietly surfaced. Allegations that gifts connected to Meghan's as ever lifestyle brand were not warmly received. That detail might seem small, but in royal dynamics, symbolism is everything. A rejected gift is not about the item. It's about the message behind it. And if true, it suggested that even gestures of goodwill were being met with distance. And then there was the body language. Observers didn't just watch what happened, they studied how it happened. Meghan leaving Highgrove didn't look like someone who had just repaired a broken relationship. It looked like someone who had just understood the reality of it. Because if this had been a success, there would have been signs. Relaxation, relief, even subtle optimism. Instead, what people claimed to see was frustration. Disappointment, a visible disconnect between expectation and outcome. Behind all of this stood a larger, more complicated force: the royal family itself. King Charles wasn't just acting as a father, he was acting as a monarch, navigating a deeply fractured institution. The ongoing tension between Prince Harry and Prince William remained unresolved. And Harry's previous comments about Queen Camilla in his memoir Spare had already created lasting damage. This meeting wasn't happening in isolation. It was happening in the middle of multiple unresolved conflicts. So the king chose caution. Structure, control, not emotion, not risk. Because every decision he makes doesn't just affect his family, it affects the monarchy itself. And in that calculation, one thing became clear: reconciliation would not come easily, and it would not come without conditions. But here's the question that refuses to go away. If this was only the first step, why did it already feel like the end? The aftermath didn't unfold with noise. It unfolded with absence. No statement from King Charles III, no acknowledgement from the palace, no carefully worded press release to soften what had just happened at Highgrove. And in royal strategy, silence is never empty, it's deliberate. Because when the institution says nothing, it forces the world to look closer at what's missing. And what was missing here wasn't just communication, it was confirmation that anything had actually changed. What makes this even more striking is what Meghan Markle reportedly came for in the first place. This wasn't meant to be a quiet visit. This was supposed to be a reset moment, a visual signal. Something that could ripple across headlines, social media, and public perception all at once. A reconciliation story that didn't just happen behind closed doors, but one that could be seen, shared, and remembered. Instead, she walked away with nothing to show. No image, no narrative, no proof. And that absence begins to look less like coincidence and more like control. Because the palace understands the power of optics better than anyone. If a photograph had been taken just one, it could have reshaped everything. It could have suggested forgiveness, unity, even a pathway back into the royal fold. But by allowing the meeting to happen without producing a single visual artifact, the institution effectively neutralized that possibility. The meeting existed, but only in reports, speculation, and fragmented accounts. And that means the palace controlled how far its impact could go. At the same time, another subtle shift began to take shape, one that directly affected Prince Harry. Because while Meghan and the children reportedly left, Harry stayed behind in the United Kingdom for Invictus Games preparations. On the surface, that looks like commitment to his long-standing project. But underneath, it raises a deeper question. Was this always meant to divide their roles? Meghan attempting reconciliation, Harry maintaining duty? Or did the outcome of Highgrove force that split into reality? And that leads directly into the next consequence, how this meeting could ripple into the future of the Invictus Games themselves. Harry has built years of identity around that platform. It's one of the last remaining bridges between him and public respect within the UK. But reports now suggest the palace is cautious, because every appearance tied to Harry and Meghan increasingly carries controversy. And that means senior members of the royal family may hesitate to publicly associate themselves with events connected to him. Not because of the cause, but because of the narrative that follows. Which creates a dangerous imbalance. Harry retains the project, but the royal backing that once amplified it may quietly fade. And without that institutional presence, even something as respected as the Invictus Games could begin to feel isolated from the very system it once symbolized. That's not an immediate collapse, it's a slow shift. But in royal terms, slow shifts are often the most permanent. Meanwhile, the internal tensions that shaped this meeting haven't disappeared, they've intensified. Because Prince William remains a central, unspoken force in all of this. His unresolved differences with Harry aren't just personal, they influence the entire structure of how reconciliation can happen. Any movement toward bringing Harry back into closer royal proximity doesn't just affect one relationship. It affects the future king's position, authority, and long-term control of the monarchy. And then there's Queen Camilla, whose strained relationship with Harry, especially after the release of Spare, adds another layer of resistance. Because this isn't just about forgiveness, it's about memory. Public statements, personal revelations, and deeply personal criticisms don't disappear after a single meeting. They linger, and they shape how every future interaction is approached. So King Charles finds himself in an impossible position. A father wanting connection, a monarch needing stability, and a family fractured across multiple fault lines that cannot be repaired all at once. That's why the Highgrove meeting was never going to be emotional. It had to be structured, controlled, limited. Because if it wasn't, it risked triggering consequences far beyond one reunion. But here's where the contradiction becomes impossible to ignore. Supporters of Harry and Meghan viewed the meeting as a positive step simply because it happened. After years of distance, even a short interaction could be framed as progress. But others looked at the outcome and saw something very different. They saw a meeting that changed nothing, a moment that looked significant, but produced no measurable shift in status, relationship, or future direction. And that brings the focus back to Meghan Markle herself. Because this visit carried weight far beyond a personal reunion. It was supposed to be a moment of re-entry, a chance to reshape perception, a carefully timed return that could signal relevance, connection, and influence within the royal narrative again. But instead, what unfolded suggested the opposite. That the institution has moved on. That the space she once occupied is no longer waiting. No major announcements followed. No visible unity. No indication that long-standing disagreements had been resolved. The meeting became, at most, a brief opportunity for King Charles to see his grandchildren after years apart. And beyond that, nothing changed. And yet, the most unsettling part isn't what happened, it's what didn't. Because if this was meant to open the door to reconciliation, why did it feel so final? Why did every detail from the waiting period to the structured tone, from the 47-minute duration to the absence of photographs, point toward limitation rather than expansion? Because when an institution allows a meeting but controls every outcome, it isn't testing reconciliation. It's defining its boundaries. And if those boundaries have already been drawn this clearly, then the real question isn't whether Harry and Meghan can return. It's whether the palace has already decided they never truly will.